Hi, I'm CJ from BirdDog. In today's video, I'm proud to show you the latest software application from BirdDog called BirdDog Dyno. Finally, a tool to show you what's under the hood of your NDI network. So now I'm going to give you a brief demonstration and walkthrough, and let's jump right into this latest software. When you launch the program, you're going to be greeted by this dashboard page. While it can look a little overwhelming at first, it's actually not that bad. To start, in the top right, you'll get the computer specs of the machine that Dyno is running on. You'll get the CPU, the core count, the RAM memory, and the GPU that you're operating with. If I click System, you will see the OS, the build number, the name of your computer, as well as the display resolution and refresh rate that you're running on. Finally, if I hit the network card, you can actually choose which NIC you want to see. And so this is my Ethernet 2 NIC, and you can see the link speed, the IP address, as well as the subnet. So this is all great information that you can use to send to people to see Dyno tests, as well as just use on your local machine. So now let's go ahead and go into how the testing will work. So on the top left, you can see the NDI sources. Now there's a couple options here. There's single, multiple, analysis, and benchmark. We're gonna go ahead and start with single. When I start, I wanna hit this refresh, and this will show me all the NDI sources on my network. So for this test, I'm gonna do the P100 camera. Now, when I do single, this is basically demonstrating sending one NDI signal to multiple destinations. So under the receiver count, I can choose how many destinations I wanna simulate sending my signal to. So for this test, I'll just send out to 2 monitors, let's say. You can see the video format, the FPS, and the resolution. So down here, I can choose how long I want to test for. 60 seconds is the minimum, and we'll go ahead and start that up. So once you do that, you're gonna see a live graph of the data that's running. You can actually see the preview, and this is my P100 puppy cam, and it's just to make sure that my new puppy's up to no good while I'm at work. So you can see you have the frame length down here, and then the FPS average up here. What's great is you also will get a breakdown by color of the amount of receivers or NDI sources, and you can actually toggle them on and off to see them individually if you want. You can also show the under of the graph right here, and this will show you a little bit more details, but this is kind of the easier to digest format. So as this is running, you'll see my receive FPS, which is hovering right at 30, which is great. And then you'll also see the frame length, which is how much the NDI signal is getting to my source. So 30 milliseconds is a pretty good standard. So as this is wrapping up, I'll now have a good idea that I can send one NDI source to 2 destinations on my network successfully. So now that that's good, let's go ahead and flip over to multiple. Now this is if I want to simulate having multiple cameras going into, let's say, a production switcher. So here I could choose my PF120 above me, or my P100, and then even my vMix output. So now I can do 3 sources to make sure that when I go into a new environment, I can have 3 different NDI sources come into my switcher with no problems. So let's go ahead and start that test. You can see I got a 3rd color, number 8, and then the preview is my PF120 that's above, showing down on my keyboard. So as this is running, once again, it's a 60-second test, and you have 1, 6, and 8. Again, I can toggle this off if I want to see the different colors. And right now this is all looking good. My PF120 is actually shooting in 60 FPS, while my other 2 cameras are shooting in 30 FPS. Now notice the frame length of the PF120 is half, and that's just because 16 milliseconds is my target for that frame length measurement. So as this is finishing up at 60%, I'm gonna also talk a little bit how we can use this to export this data to remotely troubleshoot and help basically figure out different situations remotely or locally exporting information within Dyno. So at the top right, you can actually see there's a little download icon. This is the export feature. So once this test is done at 100%, I'm gonna go ahead and hit export right here. And you can save this, let's say 3 cam test. Save. Now, once I do that, I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys what it would look like if I brought it in. So NDI analysis is actually showing the data rate of the full NDI, which would be around 120 megabits, and then the minimum, average, and max latency of my NDI signal. So I want to actually bring in a test that I did earlier. So if I hit this icon right here, you'll see that it'll say you have activated the revision mode, load file, and then I'm gonna hit NDI analysis example. So now I hit open, and you can actually see it imported that data from earlier. you can see that this is the average FPS. This is my bit rate right here. And this is just useful information and how you would export this to send to someone in a different destination so that they could see what exactly you're running on that network. And then lastly, you can see the CPU and GPU utilization live, like a task manager, and this can be helpful if you want to see if your system is up to the task. The final test is the benchmark, which I don't recommend running because this will basically test the full limit of your system, and you definitely don't want to do this if you're anywhere near a show. All these tests you definitely want to do before trying to do a live show, because we definitely don't want to impact the performance of anything that you guys got going on. So that is the basic run through of NDI Dyno. We hope that you guys will find this useful, as it's a free software to download. And you guys, if you need more information, please visit birddog.tv, or if you have any pre-sales or workflow questions, feel free to email us at hello@birddog.tv. Thanks, have a great day.
What's going on, everybody? I am BirdDog John, and today is a big day because we have announced BirdDog Dyno, and that's an awesome free tool that we're going to talk about today that we've been working on for quite some time. And so today I'm here to take as many questions as we possibly can about that. Traditionally, we are also trying to eat something spicy, but we'll see how the question stuff goes. First, I have my guys on standby if we need to make up some food, but we'll hold on from there. By the way, great work, CJ, who is one of our guys here in the U.S. He's one of our sales engineers. Hey man, great job on that video. That looked awesome. And I know Reese over in Australia helped him kind of put it all together and make it look pretty and titles and all that stuff. So hey, shout out to production video. I love good video production. You've seen the stuff I've put together. You're witnessing the show. I wouldn't say this is great, but this is something. But hey, that was excellent. So thanks so much for bringing that and doing all that. I'm just going to set this up here. Dexter is here today, so we'll throw that out. He has been at home last week, and so he's busy hanging out here. He just had a treat because he was driving me crazy, so reward that bad behavior. Anyways, all good. He is here. I can put him over there. Let me see if I can get this to switch. He's here. He's on a P100 just like CJ's dog, and enjoying some quiet time in the crate. So hopefully he'll settle down and give us some time to chat this morning about Dyno. So yeah, Dexy's here. There's the puppy cam, and he's my little bird dog. He's an actual bird dog. He used to hunt birds, so he's legit, that one. And yeah, he's a good boy. So he'll show up later on in the show, sure. But he's here, and hopefully he'll have a good little rest. All right, so I'm going to jump over to the chat. You saw the video that we've put together for Dyno. Essentially, this is a network diagnostic tool that BirdDog again has made available for free, and it's on the website for download. Feel free to jump over there and have a look around. It's the description that was given that I liked the most was, this is a tool to help you understand your network's capabilities and the devices that might be watching them. There's several things we're going to talk about in the program, and I've got a secondary computer here because I want to be able to show Dyno today kind of live and do some of that. But I didn't want to run it on the Wirecast machine because we're already running at like 60% CPU, and this will read back how much the CPU is being used. And so it wouldn't be a great example because I'm in production right now. You don't want to run Dyno, just like CJ said. You don't want to run this while you're doing production. You want to be sure that this is a tool that you use to ensure that the network that you're using is going to be able to handle whatever it is that you're requiring. There's a lot of questions in the NDI realm about, is my network up to speed to do NDI? And perhaps even more so, why does my network need to be, configured a certain way in order for NDI to play nice? And, there are many ways to achieve the objective, but there are, I'm just going to kill this song real quick because I don't like it. There are many ways to achieve the same objective, but there are more efficient ways for sure. And so this is a great little tool that's come out here that is actually very support-centered, by the way. So I'm excited about that because this will give us the ability to examine networks and give customers the ability, like that brief little overview that CJ ran for us is a great example of just somebody that is a one-man band and wants to know what's going on in the network, and it gives you a tool to actually understand, what's actually happening. Now, these tools actually exist, but they're not very user-friendly. So NDI or new tech have the ability to spit out this information, but it's all in like command line. And so you have to know what you're looking at, and you have to know how to read it in order for that to come back and be useful to you. This interface is taking those fundamentals and making them very user-friendly so that you have the ability to run the program, understand what's happening, see what's happening in real time, and make better assessments of what's happening on your network, long before you even need to ask for assistance. Because if we remote in, this is the type of stuff we might do. We might run NDI analysis, or we might run, the development SDK package to try and figure out what's going on and benchmark some things. This gives you the ability to do it yourself and allows you to be a lot more informed about the performance of your network long before you have to reach out and talk to anybody. So it's a free tool, really helpful. We're going to do a fair bit more in terms of in-depth things like per tab, when you would do certain things, when you would perform certain tests. I will talk about the benchmark thing. CJ's right. It does pack up your computer, but I have the ability to do that because I've got a second machine here that's just coming across with NDI. So it'll drop the NDI feed for a hot second. We'll see what happens in Wirecast. But we'll be actually able to run the benchmark, and I'll show you those results for this computer, which is a Microsoft Surface Pro, maybe? Let me pull up the about this machine here. So the machine I'm going to run Dyno on today is just a straight-up Microsoft Surface, and it is an AMD Ryzen 5. It's a 2.1 gigahertz, 8 gigs of RAM, so she's not a beast, to say the least. And a 64-bit operating system. So that's what I'm going to run Dyno on, and you're going to see it perform, and then we're going to try and break it. We're going to push the computer kind of to its limits, and I want you to see what that looks like, because that'll be a practical example. So, all right, what's going on? Hey, what's going on, Balu? Thanks for jumping on in. MTash, what's going on? Good to see you again. Hey, is that Phil Hadfield, like from... Does it tell you if the NDI is multicast? I don't think so. So that, if you're running multicast, there's this assumption in the NDI world, and perhaps it's a bad assumption, but there's an assumption in the NDI world where if you're running multicast, you're probably beyond, the basic NDI analysis type of stuff. But this tool will be helpful regardless. But yeah, multicast is in like a different level of implementation, and so unfortunately, hey, what's going on, Phil? Thanks for joining us today. I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know if it doesn't read back the TCP and multicast, unicast or multicast option, but again, it kind of maybe it's a really bad assumption, but it kind of assumes that if you're running a multicast, that's a much more sophisticated configuration. It's not just change it on the BirdDog, right? It's you need to customize your switches to handle multicast information before you ever get to putting BirdDogs on that wire. So it doesn't read back this, for the most part. This is going to be for TCP environments. It will run in multicast as well, but the program itself will not tell you what the packets are that I've seen. I haven't seen that yet, and potentially that's coming up. I don't know though. I am really excited though, because and so much so because I'm already halfway through my coffee, and so you can probably tell that my energy level is higher than normal. I'm excited because this is a tool. This is a support tool for clients and for you to understand better the implementation of NDI. And we're trying really hard to kind of pull the curtain back and show you how the cameras are operating on your network. And it'll help us kind of clearly figure out, is it a network? Is it a computer? Is it an endpoint? It'll give us some more data to go on so we can assess things on site and in the field. And we hope that this will be a tool that installers will use in the field to make it happen. So it's amazing from what I've seen. Oh, awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear that you feel that way, Phil. Good stuff. Are you coming to NAB? There's an outstanding question. Hey, and thanks for all of you guys who are here for the first time. There's a few more folks that are hanging out online with us today. This is a regular show, Tuesday, Thursdays. We don't have big announcements like this all the time, but we do hang out twice a week. We answer NDI questions. We usually eat spicy food, and you watch me react to that. We also have too busy. Bummer, man. I would love to have shaken your hand. We also have BirdDog Dexter here today, so he's my little celebrity, and some people just come for him, and they don't care anything about me, but that's totally fine because he's worth it. He's a good boy, and he's hanging out here today on the show with us, so we'll check out on him later. He's having a little snooze. The other thing that I want to throw up here is this guy. Let me make sure I got this right. So Beep Chirp, who is a regular attender here on the show, sent us some sauces from those spicy ramen packets. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out my YouTube channel and BirdDog John. And I've been eating spicy ramen on Tuesdays typically, and these are the sauces. So far, I like this one the best, which is like a cheese, I guess. It's spicy, but it's not brutal. This is the one-time spicy, and if I had a choice, I'd eat this one first, the cheese, then this one, and then this is the two-time sauce, and this is just like to abuse your body, I guess. So anyways, he was generous enough to ship us those. We have put them on various things to give them a try. And we know somebody in our circle that really likes spicy food, and so we're going to donate the two-time spicy to him because I don't want it to go to waste. It was a nice donation. I'd rather somebody enjoy it than it go bad here in the pantry. So what is going on, Phil? How's it happening? Yeah, how's that stomach doing? Yeah, it's been a doozy. It has been a doozy for sure. You need to get Mr. I'm always hesitant to click on links, but I will do it because I trust you, Phil. Oh, hot pepper pickles. And then the label just says, very hot. That's, okay, I believe you. MySnacks.us, that site seems a little sketch. But here's the thing is, who's this John guy? What's going on, NetHab? Thanks for joining us. Yeah, I don't like to just destroy myself, but the ramen has been progressively getting... Well, we did it in one time, and then we did two-time spicy, and I think that's like my ceiling. I won't go any hotter than that. So if it's worse than two-time spicy, I probably won't do it. But anyways, Beep Chirp has been generous enough to donate these. I want to get these on the stream because he shipped those along, and you can buy them on Amazon. So yeah, we appreciate him and always keeping us well-fed. Hey, that random BirdDog account showed up. What's going on, man? It is super late in Australia. And bring some to NAB. I know for a fact that Eamon is immune to hot sauce. Oh, really? Oh, well then. Maybe we shall. Yeah, maybe we shall, my friend. Yeah, so BirdDog, it's Eamon. And he's stayed up with us. It's a little late in Melbourne. Let's just see real quick here. Oh, man, it's 1:20 in the morning. So... hey, thanks for hanging around for a little bit. Appreciate you being here, man. Hey, I sent Eamon some, and FedEx broke them. I nearly cleared out the BirdDog office in Melbourne. Hey, yeah, I don't know if well, anyways, we won't go there. Today is Dyno Day, but I did want to throw up those sauces on there, make sure that they get the proper shout out they deserve. All right, I'm gonna bring in my computer here, which is just being shared over screen capture, and we're gonna jump across to there. And I've just launched Dyno. This is the interface that you saw with CJ, and this computer is on the same network as all these cameras that I have in my office. So I got a P400 on the sauces today. I got a P200, that's my main camera. I got a P100 on Dexter, and I have a P100 above me that watches kind of from above whenever I'm demonstrating things. And so there's lots of cameras on this network, as well as other devices that are in the office. And so I share this NDI network with other computers. We do all of our kind of official testing, whatever. So bring some to ISC if you're going, Phil. Eamon would like to have a refill, evidently. So, oh no. So let's toss up Dyno. And initially, just on the screen, you can see right away that it's reading back. Once Dyno launches, it's watching the CPU usage, for the computer. And so when we are ingesting NDI streams, it's going to use up CPU power, right? That's just the current way that NDI is written. So NDI 4, which is what all the BirdDog cameras are on, and there's a change coming soon for NDI 5. So stay tuned in the coming weeks, and come by the booth at NAB, because it's going to be pretty awesome, the stuff that we're going to show there. And Eamon will be there. So if you missed Eamon's beautiful face all these years, it's been almost 2 years since he's been over here, he'll be there, and I'm looking forward to having him around. So there'll be lots of exciting things happening at our booth. Be sure that if you come to NAB, we are in Central Hall. Let me just open this up real quick here. So we are in Central Hall, and we are going to be at stand C as in Charlie, or for Central, 5021. So our booth is Central Hall 5021. We're right. If you find the Canon booth, which is like a whole block of the Central Hall, we're right around there. So we're right in the middle of like a group of booths, and we got a really large booth this year, way bigger than we've had in previous years, and it's really complicated. And so come on by and see what we're doing. Lots of cool stuff that's going to be happening there. Not sure about beautiful face, a good face for radio. It's all good, man. Looking forward to seeing you. And stay tuned for late January's announcements. Yeah, come to NAB. You're going to find out more stuff there. And so I'm pretty excited. We will probably have Dyno at least running on laptops and stuff, so you can get your hands on it. But you can download it today if you have a Windows 10 machine. Grab it, have a look through it. And if you have questions and stuff like that, feel free to meet me here online Tuesday, Thursdays at 11 to 12 Eastern time. And then by all means, shoot us an email at help@birddog.tv, or hello, as CJ said. CJ is at hello@birddog.tv. And there's a whole team of sales guys over there. So if you have pre-sales questions, hit them up. If you have post-sales or support questions, shoot us a message at help@birddog.tv. And I've got a great group of guys that are constantly monitoring that desk. So, yeah, give us a shout if you have questions. Okay, so come and see us at NAB. And if you want a free guest pass, you can get that with us. Use the code LV54287. Okay, so LV, Las Vegas, LV54287. Register on the NAB website. Use that code. You can get a free guest pass to join us at NAB. Come hang out with us. And how about Windows 11? How about Windows 11? Can we just let that go the way of Windows 8? So far, I'm not terribly impressed. We haven't got the testing environments up and running to guarantee Windows 11 is going to be flawless. Right now, we're testing on Windows 10, which is fine. Windows 11 is coming whether we like it or not. So it will be tested on Windows 11 for sure. But I can't speak for today, but it's definitely going to be looked at for sure, because it's coming whether we want it to or not. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us. If you're over on YouTube, or you go to birddogjohn.tv, you can subscribe to that channel there, and YouTube will let you know when I go live. we're going to do some stuff at NAB, and I'm going to post it on that site. So if you want to follow our shenanigans over in Las Vegas in a couple of weeks, which I'm really excited about, once we're there and set up, I will be very relieved. And so really excited about what we're doing there. But if you're not able to make it, Phil, feel free to follow me over there on YouTube, and then I'm going to post stuff on that channel, hopefully regularly while I'm there. We'll see how busy Mr. Eamon will have me being. So, but that's the plan. I keep forgetting Windows 11 is a thing. What's going on, Jay? Yeah, it is a thing, and it's coming in hot. So heads up. All right, back to Dyno. So here we go. Let me run through. I'm going to do a recap just like CJ did, and then I'm happy to take your questions. So my eyes are on the chat. So as we're doing this, ask your questions, and I'll be happy to take those as we go. Dyno is a way to just make the diagnostic tools that were kind of available for customers. All right, BirdDog has done a great job of doing this. I think it looks fantastic, and it gives us the data that we really need to get in a direction of resolution when it comes to, hey, I'm having drop frames, or hey, I'm having problems with my network, or hey, X, Y, Z, whatever that is. The issue is that like networks are a dime a dozen. People configure them, plug them in, do whatever, and there's really no like regulation yet in the NDI realm as to like this is what it should be. And that's an effort to bring on board as many people as possible. But then when it comes to figuring out what's going wrong with it, we really want to, sorry, I got my in-ears here. When we try and figure out what's going wrong with it, we need some sort of tool to help us like figure it out, right? Where's the linchpin? So what we're going to do here is we're going to check this out. Now, the first thing I would suggest is hardline into this network and turn off Wi-Fi. I mean, that's day one stuff. But Wi-Fi is really going to screw with your network, especially in an NDI environment. And I'll tell you why. The nature of Wi-Fi is that when my computer joins a Wi-Fi network, it broadcasts and says, like, here I am at this MAC address, at this IP address, and it sends it to an access point. And the access point takes that information and retranslates it from over-the-air communication to ones and zeros that are going through a copper line. They go back to the central computer. But then other devices that are listening in Wi-Fi realms are also then waiting to get that broadcast. But whether or not they get that broadcast is really, doesn't really matter in the Wi-Fi realm. You do or you don't. And so great Wi-Fi networks, can guarantee some things, but average consumer-based stuff, and I'm talking about like Ubiquiti, for example, or even Ruckus or Aerohive or whatever, these wireless configurations or companies are in the business of just connecting devices to a main network and not about ensuring that every single packet makes it across the wire. So Wi-Fi is always going to be, and this is just reality in the networking world, it will always be at least 2 generations behind the wired community. And NDI is primarily about performance. It's about getting video as fast as possible over to the destination, right? So from a source to a destination as quickly as possible. And so Wi-Fi is fast, but wired is always way faster. And so when we're talking about network diagnostics, we need to be sure that we turn off our wireless stuff so that we're not sending out pings on, wireless LANs or WANs that are communicating over the air, because sometimes those ping requests go unanswered, and that's going to be a problem when we're talking about trying to make sure every packet is making it to the destination. So I really don't recommend having everything or having your computer wirelessly connected. Now, unfortunately, companies like Microsoft and Apple are not doing us any favors by removing Ethernet ports from their mobile devices. Okay, so I've got a Microsoft service. It doesn't have an Ethernet port, and I have to use a USB-C dongle to get from that to 10 gig internet. In this instance, I'm using Cat5e. I'm going to a 4250, which is over on my bench, and then I'm using a dongle that's actually a Uni dongle, which I trust, and that creates a 1 gig connection to my NDI network, and that's basically what I need. Now, when we're talking about setup for this, we also need to know 1 gig translates to about 4 or 5 NDI, full NDI connections. Because each connection can range from somewhere in, for 1080p, somewhere in the range of 120 to 140 megabits. If we're talking about 4K signals, now we're talking about 200, 220, okay? So that's even less. So if you're running on a 1 gig connection, you got to know that before you start clicking on multiple NDI sources and seeing what your computer can handle. First of all, we need to know the limitations of the computer. And the nice thing about that is we tell you that right here. We look up the network stats and we tell you, look, you've got a AMD Ryzen 5 Microsoft Surface processor. All right, strike one. I got 4 cores on this CPU, logical 8, but 4 actual cores. And then I've got about 6 gigs of usable RAM. Those are the stats that are a big deal. Now, I have an AMD Picasso GPU, which is also known as I don't have a GPU, integrated graphics. So let's bypass that. But that should actually show you if you have on like a M4 or a M4250. If you have an M4000 or a Quadro 4000 or something like that, it should show NVIDIA, Quadro 4000 in that line. Okay. Switching over to our system tab, this tells us basically what we're running off of this computer. We're a Windows 10 Home Edition. We have 64-bit, by the way. Tells you your build if you're wondering, what update you're on. What the name of this is, so Surface Knudsen is mine, and the display on this is 1920 by 1080. Now, I forced that. All right, I forced that for screen capture. So today we're looking at this screen capture. This is a 1080p image that's being captured by screen capture, right? NDI screen capture, and then being sent over Wirecast over the network. So this is actually an NDI signal that you're looking at that's coming into Wirecast. Okay, and then finally, it shows us all of our network connections. We get a nice little drop down here, and it will show us our network connections. Now, Wi-Fi has been turned off. There's a couple of local connections here, but the one that I'm connected to is Ethernet 4. It shows you that I have a gigabit connection. All right, so 1,000, 1,000. Some of you, it might read 100, 1,000, 100, 1,000, or 10, 100, 1,000. If it says anything less than 1,000 megabits per second, you need to check your network cable, or you need to check your network port, or you need to check your duplex settings, okay? And how do we do that? Go to Control Panel, go to the network settings, go to IPv4, double-click on your network connection, open up the IPv4, go to Advanced, and look for, I think it's under Details, look for Speed and Duplex. If you double-click on that, make sure that that is on Auto Negotiate. Don't have it set to something manually, because that will hinder the performance of the computer before we even start. So, you know what? I'll do you a favor. Let's go there right now. So, Control Panel. All right. Network and Internet. And then we're going to go to, let's say, Network and Sharing Center. And then we're going to say Ethernet 4. That's my connection. It's going to pop up the little Ethernet window. Properties. Oh, I'm sorry, not properties. Oh, yeah, properties. Under here, Realtek USB. Let's say Configure. And then under Advanced, we get all of these options. All right, so let's recap. Control Panel, Internet and Sharing. We're going to click on the network adapter. So mine's called Ethernet 4. And then we're going to open up right here under Connection. There's a Details button. Click on that. And then it's going to open up our little Realtek USB, in my case, controller. And here, we're going to click on the Advanced tab, and we're going to scroll down and make sure that Speed and Duplex is listed at Auto Negotiate. Now, you can throttle this. Okay, you can change this to do whatever you want to do. I want it to be Auto Negotiate for all of your NDI analysis stuff. It needs to be on Auto Negotiate, because this will tell us if there is a problem with your network card. So, here we are, we go to Auto Negotiate, then you would open up Dyno, and it will read back on the network tab, it will read back what your link speed is. That needs to at least say 1 gig. For this to really work with full NDI, that has to say 1 gig, or better. Okay, so 1 gig or 10 gigs or whatever. Critical before you start, don't miss that. So 1 gig. Okay, gives us our gateway, gives us my IP address of this computer, or actually this NIC card. You can have multiple NIC cards connected, by the way. But it gives us the IP address of this. DHCP is enabled. It's not in static mode, and it's auto-configured, okay? All right. That's the general information before we get started. Now, I just opened this, and so it shows Knudsen's PC as a source that it's looking at. But I'm going to hit this little refresh button right here, and it's going to inquire what sources are on my network. And now I can drop this down, and I have a whole bunch of stuff, all right? So I've got lots of sources on this network. Today, I'm going to look at Dexter's P100. And so that's the P100 that we were looking at here with Dexy. And when you select that and hit go, it's going to drop the preview in this window right here. Okay, so you'll be able to see the source. Now, I think my video in Wirecast is covering up that, but that's a little preview window that you can make sure that's where I've got the right source. So when we start the test, it will pull that feed down, show it to you so you can verify, yep, I've got the right source that I want to check. Like CJ said, you can increase the receiver account, which is basically like making multiple connections to the same source. And so we can say, I want to see this source 3 times. You can do that and see what the system does. In this instance, we're going to run it 1 connection as if I were bringing it into Wirecast as a single connection. Hey, Calwork, what's going on, man? Been stuck in meetings so far today, but looking forward to Snacks on Stream recap video since I missed the stream so far. Well, there hasn't been Snacks on Stream because we're doing a Dyno announcement today, so that is currently what's happening in that realm. RP100 is causing some screen flickering. Any easy fixes for that? Let's jump into that in a minute when we're done with the Dyno demo. So we're just going to select the receiver count, and I'm going to say I want 1. And when I've selected the source, we get the source info. So UYV source is what the format. We're at 60 frames per second on that camera. It's a 1080p picture. So all this looks correct. Let's go ahead and run and watch the CPU information when we hit test, because this is something that we want to pay attention to when we run it. So there's Dexy turning around in his crate right now. And stuff is happening on there, on that screen. And this is the source coming into this computer over my configured, my TCP network. Now, I have a lot of sources on this network, all right? And so, lots of stuff is happening here. And to be truthful, I'm over the limit on this 4250 as far as I'm concerned. But we're going to run this, and it's going to tell us a bunch of useful information. CPU is now operating somewhere in the 30%, 40% realm, and we're half done that test. Still there, Dexy's just asleep. Some of the things that you want to pay attention to is at the top we have the receiver's frame per second, so we're hovering right at 60 all the time, which is what I want to see, and the frame length is somewhere in the 20 millisecond realm, which is fine. It's closer to like 15 or 20, but we'll see. Okay, so once the test is done, you see the CPU just like drop right off again, right? So when we bring in a source to a computer, my CPU jumps up to 30%. And I'm going to run a multiple test here in a minute and show you the difference here when we start bringing multiple signals, what that does to a pretty low-grade system. All right, this computer, it takes almost 30% just to run a single stream. This computer, for production, is insufficient. As far as I'm concerned, at one stream at 30%, I would not recommend a Microsoft Surface with 8 gigs of RAM to run any sort of production software. And we used to. If you've been here long enough, you know that I tried to run OBS off of this machine and it failed miserably. And I had 2 sources. So this computer is clearly not sufficient if it's running 30% CPU without anything else running. No OBS, no Wirecast, no nothing. Just one source coming in. Yeah, it struggles. All right. Couple things that I want to kind of just touch on here. Okay, so we have our average. When we see these little dips in here, we're dropping a frame. The computer is not getting that information, or the NIC card itself is dropping it. One of the things that I don't like about modern computers is they don't come with built-in Ethernet cards, which means that these USB dongles, which are significantly underpowered, as far as I'm concerned, are not super reliable. Matter of fact, when we do the neuralizer stuff, we recommend not using a USB-C dongle because it's kind of hit or miss. It seems that the performance of those aren't up to speed, and that's indicated here is that we have a couple of drop frames here on this just test of Dexter. The other thing is the frame length. Okay, so we're going to throw this up here, and you can verify that we pretty much had a drop frame because when we put on both graphs, we see these spikes, and that basically is the frame not arriving in time, is when we see this. This can indicate that I've got a network problem, I've got a computer problem, I've got a dongle problem, or fundamentally, the camera's not updated or something's going on along the chain. So we can confirm, okay, yeah, something happened here when Dexter, I think he even stood up and turned around during that. So the frame became a lot more complicated, and we missed a couple of frames in this test. So, okay, that's test number one. That's kind of like what I'm looking at. It's like, oh, that's really good. Now, if you're a customer and you're seeing this, and BirdDog says, hey, can you run NDI analysis and let me know what you see? You can hit this little button right here, and it will open up like a little save screen. This is the one we want, BirdDog data. I'm just going to dump it here on test. Yoink. Save. And now on my desktop, there should be a file that will show that information. It might be... Where did I put that here? Sorry, give me a second. Did I hit cancel? Let's run that again. Oh, no, it's there. Okay, cancel that. Okay, I'm just not seeing it. It's probably because I resized my desktop. Anyways, then you can email that to me. It is here. It shows it as a file. There, desktop. Here it is. So you can email that to us at help@birddog.tv, and then we can load it into Neuralizer and see your results. As a matter of fact, it shows more than just this one test. For example, if you run other things in Dyno, then you can, like if you run multiples, if you run analysis, and you hit export, it will send us everything. And so we can click through the tabs then and see what you saw. So that's an ingenious thing. I love the fact that that's a possibility now because it enables our agents and stuff to help with that. So, keep going here. Let me just recap. Are you running 60 hertz, 50 hertz lighting? Oh, that's a good idea, Phil. If you're seeing like screen flickering, maybe define that a little bit for us living with parents. Because do you mean you're seeing like a refresh flickering, or you're seeing like the signal is disappearing and coming back, like going to black and coming back? Those are two different flickerings. I've just inherited a church AV system. Our last guy quit. I'll have to go into the sanctuary today to check out the hertz. I was reading about that on Reddit. I got to check it out. Yeah, okay. The hertz thing is definitely something to check out because that can easily be it. And there used to be a deflicker option, but now you can just set, like if you're running 60 hertz lights or 50 hertz lights, depending on where you are. If you're here in the US, run it at 1080p 60. If you're in Europe, you might need to run it at 50. See if that helps. On YouTube, it just looks like the signal is disappearing. Oh. Okay, so if that's happening on YouTube, that could be other things. You may be dropping the feed, like the bit rate is exceeding or not getting out fast enough. Churches are notorious for having everybody on one network, so you have like a Wi-Fi system, and the church shows up, and you have 200 devices on your network. Every kid's got 2 phones now and a Nintendo Switch in his back pocket that all connect to Wi-Fi. So be really careful when you're going up to the internet that you know that you have at least 3 or 4 megs to get up, and then set your bit rate in your ingest software like OBS or whatever. Make sure that you're capping that at 1,000 kilobits or 2,000 kilobits or whatever. YouTube's really good because they'll accept anything. Facebook sucks because they'll only do 1,000. So be careful there. Okay, so let's jump over to multiple, and now we're going to stress this little computer because, yeah, we're going to stress her. So I'm going to pick both of my P100s, so Dexter's and the overhead cam that I have. We're going to run this same test here. Now, what I want you to watch is, first of all, CPU usage. Boom, she's going to jump up, right? So now we're running closer to, well, let's give it a second before I let it settle down. But what I want you to look at is the information at the top, right underneath, right above the frames per second, right? This is where we can kind of follow along and make sure that nothing significantly changes. So I've got right around 30 frames at all times. And then for the Dexter's, which is running in 60 frames, I don't see any major errors there either. Now, the illustration of this is obviously the frames per second line that's being drawn. It's very consistent, right around the range that we want it to be in. I love the fact that you can do multiples at once, man. BirdDog engineers, software guys, you nailed it on this. Well done. Hey, check out that CPU usage. It spikes up to almost 50 or 60% at one point. We don't have any real dropped frames. Let's see what happens right to the end. Boom. So perfect, nice clean feeds. No issues there. Of course, those feeds, there's not a whole lot happening on those cameras. One is looking at a very dynamic color array, my desktop. So one of them is this feed. So that's the overhead P100. And of course, my sweet puppy, who is sleeping right now. That's the other feed that we're taking both of those live feeds right now. So this is, oh, and by the way, when I do stuff on this channel, I do it live. And if I butcher it and it screws up and something goes wrong, that's part of the genuine portion of our support, man. Like, I want to show you this is a real tool. It can help you assess this stuff. This test is not a recording. This is happening right now on a computer that I can manipulate. Check this out. You know, I can close these windows. I'm not going to open Teams chat because that's business. But, you know, it's all real time. Now, I'm not, there's no sales pitchy piece of this. This is the real deal. And so this program, I love, oh, you weren't watching that, me doing that. So look, this is real time, you know, go here on my desk. Oh, there's the test file. My recycle bin, desktop items, it's all, look, you know, open Dyno. I can open my network connections, which I did poorly. It's all real time. And I like to make sure that you guys know that this is a real thing. This isn't pre-recorded, and it's certainly not a showy thing. It's for sure, this is a real tool you can use, and I'm using it right now. If I can fix my in-ear and it get off of camera, that would be fantastic, right? This thing drives me crazy. Ooh, and I should give you an assessment at the end of the show. There we go. I should give you an assessment at the end of the show how my in-ear stuff went, because I was working. Oh, Nightbot did not like whatever Living with Parents just said. All right. So it's a real tool, and it's a real thing, and I love it. I love that this thing gives us the information that we need. The receiver 1 was the overhead camera, which is currently running at 30 frames, and then receiver 2 was the 60 frames per second camera, which is Dexter's. And so when we look here, it gives you 2 distinct colors. If we add a third one, it'll give you another distinct color, probably orange or something like that, so that you can clearly see what the heck is going on here. And then we can turn them off. So if we don't want to see, you know, this stuff, all this crazy talk, we can turn off certain receivers, turn on other ones, and analyze what's happening individually, but run multiples at once. Because, for example, Wirecast is running like 7 sources or something like that, 6 sources. And so I can shut Wirecast down and run Dyno and connect all of those sources and see how she's going to do under pressure. And then you need to add the processes for Wirecast, right? So I know that this computer can handle 7 sources, but can it handle 7 sources in Wirecast? Well, at least we know it can definitely do 7 sources. Now let's see if we add another program if we exceed the CPU usage, which I know it's not. But anyways, that's a way that you can assess things. This is going to be especially important for installers. If you're an installer, if you're somebody that goes around to churches or community groups or whatever, and you are helping people get off the ground with their streaming services, you're going to go with NDI as the option. This software on your computer or on their computer, to be honest with you, is going to be a lifesaver, because we're going to be able to see what you can produce. You know, installers, some guys are just buying cameras and a keyboard and slapping them on their network. Some guys are designing the network, buying computers, buying the cameras, buying the keyboards, buying the software, doing everything. And so this tool will help both of those types of people and everybody in between, because you'll be able to show up and say, like, okay, you wanted to run this on Ubiquiti. You bought 3 P400s. Let me just show you that how your network is going to perform with these 3 sources, okay? And you can run it show them in real time, explain to them, look, we're getting drop frames. Ubiquiti Gen 2s are not up for the job. We need to talk about an M4250 or something like that. This is going to be a huge sales tool for you installers. It's going to be a huge clearing up the questions about networking with NDI. It's going to give you more tools in your toolkit when you show up on a site and people are having problems. You're going to be able to provide them answers and quality service. You'll be able to give them results and answers, and BirdDog is happy to provide this piece of software to you for free so that you can keep selling BirdDog stuff. All right? So good times, and yeah, I'm excited about the potential for this, for you and for me, because it's going to make my life a lot easier too. Seriously, it is. So, look, full disclosure, right? We're looking at trying to make everybody's life easy. So a tool like this will definitely do this. All right, let's move over to the analysis tab. And we're going to pull up Dexter's camera again, because that's the one that I want to run. And this is going to show us the average, the maximum, and the minimum frame lengths that happen in a... and this is what NDI Analysis, the program from NDI, this is what it does. But you need to know how to read that, right? And a lot of people don't. And so this puts it in a nice little graphical form for everybody. Now, this doesn't run quite as the same way as the other two, the single and the multi does. This one runs for about 10 seconds or so, and then it starts kicking back information. So let it get to like, I don't know, 5 or 10%. It's not broken. Don't worry. Hey, check out the CPU usage though, eh? It's a lot less to run NDI Analysis for this. So this isn't a stress on the network. This is actually reading the frames coming off of the camera across the network. So it's telling us, you know, maximum and minimum frames. So, it also gives us the data rate. So here we're averaging what, like 130, which is appropriate for full NDI and NDI 4. So that is correct. Nice steady inflow right now. Data rate is averaging somewhere 136. That information's at the top of NDI Analysis. Dyno Analysis, I should say. Let's see what happens here. We'll just run to the end. Nice and tight though. I mean, that's beautiful. That's a really stable NDI signal on the network. All right. Beautiful. Now, when it first started on, I mean, it kicks on and whatever, so the initial feedback, I wouldn't worry too much about this initial latency. But when we get into the 10, 20, 30 seconds of the feed constantly coming in, which is what's going to happen when you're using a program like Wirecast, that's kind of what I want to see. I want to see something stable and steady. This tells me that the network is able to deliver the frames all within reason and in the expected data rate. So 130, 140, that's about right. The average latency is 16.67 milliseconds. Let's not get too crazy with the 0.67. 16 is about right, though, for a 1080p image. So that's great. That shows us that we're right on target, and I like that. And what I really like to see is this data rate. Now, the second graph doesn't really help me too much, but this line definitely shows us it's good and steady. It's coming into the receiver correctly. Remember, that's going from this camera to the Microsoft Surface, not to my Wirecast machine. It's going to the Surface. The Surface is underpowered as far as I'm concerned. I would not use it for production. But when I'm talking about looking at one signal, NDI signal, it's nice and clean. All right, so even this computer can analyze this signal and show back that, hey, this signal on the network is nice and clean, and we're good to go there. So, boom, love that. Now, I promised you that I would brick this computer because it's super underpowered, and I want you to see why I don't like this computer for NDI stuff. We're going to run a benchmark on this, and it's going to trash the probably the NDI feed because it maxes out the CPU. So check this out. We're going to hit benchmark. Hey, this is probably going to become unresponsive. Actually, it is going to become unresponsive. So you heard it on the introduction video from CJ, and you're going to hear it here again. Do not do this in production. Don't do this on a machine that's doing critical processes. It maxes out the CPU. It will crash the computer and all processes that are running on it. So here we go. Oh, and of course I missed it. Oh, I'm being over dramatic. Okay, so it's frozen on my screen too. That's not moving right now, which is what you're seeing on screen right now too. So let's give it a second. And she'll all come back. NDI screen capture will kick on and whatever, and it'll be all good. But Man, I love showing new stuff. This is such... Okay, so check out that GPU real quick. Maxed right out, 100%, right? This readback tells me that I have 8 logical cores, okay, in theory. 4, technically. And that this computer is capable of running 0 streams at 1080p. Seriously. This is why this computer is... I already knew this, that this computer was not good for streaming. We've already experienced this when trying to run OBS. This computer is insufficient for running NDI. That's what that tells you. This computer, not your network, not the cameras. No. This did a test on your own computer. 0 streams at 1080p. Do not use this computer for production. Do not. Stop. Do not go past go. You don't get the $200. Take that $200 that you would have gotten in Monopoly and apply it to your next computer purchase, because this computer is insufficient. That's what that means. Now, I don't have remote access. Maybe I'll do this on Thursday as a follow-up, but I could remote into a different machine that's here. Actually, I'm setting up some powerful machines, which we could run this same test on. They're just not ready yet, which will also be running Windows 11, by the way, so stay tuned. But this computer is not good enough for 1080p streams. Just flat out isn't. So, yeah, heads up. That's a real thing, and you need to be aware that the benchmark is really helpful, because customers can be like, you know what, but it like stutters. We go to YouTube, it's not working right. Load up the benchmark, run it on that computer that they're using, and if it bottoms out like this, be like, look, this computer is underpowered. You need something more powerful to even just get NDI into ingest and get it up to YouTube. That's what that would be. So, yeah, heads up. Hey, I love me some graphics and stats. Who doesn't, Sherman? How's it going, man? Good to see you. Thanks for joining us today. Hey, I just installed it, gave it a try, and then I saw that you were live. Hey, I am live Tuesday, Thursdays, just for you, man. Just for you. So welcome. Thanks for jumping over here. Hey, my i7 7800 12 cores with dual 1080 Ti's also says 0 at 1080. Interesting. Well, let's take a look at that. I know that this one is 0 for sure, but I've had this machine that I'm running on, which again I can't do because it'll break the stream. It shows it's good for 2 streams or something like that. So, yeah, watch out. Let's look a little bit deeper into that, Sherman. Hey, it would be great to get an option to share this to a online site that shows different hardware configs and what they can support NDI-wise for us integrators wanting insight into that. Hey, you are witnessing probably, like, don't quote me on this, everybody, but you're witnessing the genesis of that. This is in an effort to help you as an integrator sell more stuff, and to make BirdDog your go-to product when it comes to integrating NDI across your installs. And so we got to make the thing, right, to give you the stats to start generating that stuff. And so as things go along, yeah, it'll output that. So, hey, I know that NDI analysis says that this machine can run a handful. Cool. Let me talk to my engineer. He's actually on an airplane today. Let me see what he thinks about all that. Because if we've got multiple people saying 0, there might be something else going on there. So we'll double check. No worries. Hey, MTash. Hey, I have no time today. Maybe Thursday you were going to share the best settings for tracking and cam control. You're right, I was. And let me wrap this up. You know, it's almost noon, but I don't mind going a little bit further. And I did promise MTash that I would cover some cam control settings and some things to consider. Again, with production stuff, especially with cam control, just, you know, in general, there's a bit of a preference thing going on as to, like, what do you need and what do you prefer, and here are your tolerances, and you as a it's not just a set it and forget it type of thing. There's some finesse that goes along with it, so I can explain that for sure. Yeah, let's talk about that, MTash, for sure. I'll try and do that today. I know that Indiana says that I can run a handful. Okay, so yeah, let's look into that and see what's going on with that. Anyway, this is super helpful and a lot of great information. I can export all of this into that test file now. You know, you just overwrite the old one that I did, replace it, and then you could ship that to me, and I could open NDI analysis on my side and take a look at your stats, and it will show the other things that were on here already, right? So this information's all saved until you run the test again. This information is saved, so you can export this as a file, and then I can see all of that info. So it's going to be helpful. Trust me. Helpful in a lot of ways. Alrighty. Let's shut this party down And if you have more Dyno questions, ask them in the chat. I'll definitely get to you, and we can talk about those things. I do love seeing all the NDI tools that you are putting out. Can tell you all are in... I can tell that you all are in it for the long haul. BirdDog fanboy. Hey, that's okay, man. We'll take the fanboys. We definitely want to make this a real thing. We're not just in this to make cool looking products or, you know, things that look nice but in practicality don't work. We want to make sure that you have the tools to implement these things, to train the people you're selling them to make sure that if you're a consumer or if you're a client, that like the great example here earlier where someone was basically inherited a system that somebody else set up, and he's just trying to figure out, man, I have like a half a dozen conversations a week with folks like that, where I'm walking through color correction and I'm walking through, you know, here's how things actually work, and giving them a little bit of training. I do that all the time, and we really want it to make sense and for you to be able to make sense of it for your community too, so that you can train volunteers or you can train people to be involved and really make the best use of these cameras and converters. So yeah, we really are invested in the long haul. There are ramifications that come with that. It's not a perfect system, but we are definitely trying, and I hope that that's evident by BirdDog Dyno. It's a great little tool. It's been a long time coming. I'm excited that it has finally launched and that you guys are able to enjoy that. Okay, officially I'm going to end that, and I'm going to jump over to Cam Control. This is the actual machine that I use to use Cam Control in live production. I've shown a few examples on this live support show. And here, let's just bring Dexy back into the show for a hot second before we do that. Oh, he's a good boy. He's pretty tired. He did get a treat before the show, and that made him very happy. He was kind of upset with me earlier. But now he's having a good snooze. He's a good boy. He's getting old. He's been a good friend for a long time. He's a good guy. All right, so let's jump over to Cam Control as a way of transition. And this is actually, I do use this computer for like a 2-camera control situation. And I'll use the P200 that we're using here today as the example, just so that you can see this going. Hey everybody, esports live stream from Ghana, West Africa. Hey, what's going on? I think you might be the first person from Ghana to check in on this stream. Thank you for hanging out with us. I'm thrilled that you're here. So I'm happy that you're excited about the stuff that's going on, and thanks for joining us. Hey, if you're over on YouTube, hit that subscribe button so you can at least see the videos as they come up. What time is it down there? It's got to be like mid-afternoon at this point, right? Maybe late afternoon. Hey, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate that. All right, let's talk about Cam Control real quick, because I promised MTash I would, and then we'll get back to the Dyno questions as we wrap up. Look, I'm not hard up for time necessarily, so I'll stick on for another 30 minutes. We'll answer Dyno questions and do that. So inside Dyno, we're going to select the camera that we want to use, and you got to give it a few seconds to kind of source the network as to what's available. So today we're going to pick my Studio P200, which is this one right here. And you're going to see it appear, the little preview window. That's good stuff. And let's open the tracking module and turn on tracking. Now, it's going to probably self-acquire at some point with me moving around the screen. And if it doesn't, this is actually a great example of this. We're going to update the payload real quick. If it doesn't, what I want you to do, because this is actually a different... I've run an update on this recently. So Cam Control, run as admin. Make sure that that happens. Bueller. All right, let's try this again. Now, you got to give it a second, right? To find the sources. That's what's going on there. So there we go. Found the sources. Just give it a hot second before that happens. And you have to run it with admin. Now, you know what? This computer might... yeah, okay, there we go. So we turn it on. There's a few versions of this going around. We're writing some revisions, but I think this is the one that's on the website. Anyways, you see that it's corrected things, right? Okay, so I'm like moving around the screen, and Cam Control is doing its best to follow me. I'm not doing anything. This is all hands off. But this is a terrible shot. Okay, I look like I'm sinking in the shot, and so we don't want that. So here we're going to first of all click face, because this shot is the majority of it is my face, and so I'm going to put on face tracking for that, and then I'm going to change the XY axis, right? So X is left, right, Y is up and down. So we're going to lower this and hit update. Now, too much. I like it somewhere in the 120 realm, personally, when I'm running this in live production. And that puts, if you're looking at a 3x3 grid on a confidence monitor, that puts your eyes basically right on the line of that 3x3 grid. And that's what I use for this show for the most part. So that lines up as I expect it to. And then as I move around, it follows me. Now, it's pretty jerky, okay? It's kind of a jerk. What we want to do is get this to be nice and smooth and gradual. And here are some of those things that MTash was at. Yes, it's 4 p.m. Well, thank you for joining us. I hope your afternoon is going well. So here are the things that we want to discuss about best practices when it comes to cam control. And this just comes from me using it and my preferences. You will need to make a decision for your own production stuff in the end. But here's some heads up stuff. First of all, I like to adjust the Y coordinates, okay? Like I've already shown you. I like to have more, these are my shoulders, although you can't see them, okay? Shoulders are here. I like to have the person in the shot, the majority of their, what we would traditionally call a bust shot. This I like the best, okay? There's just a little bit of headroom above the frame, okay? Less than a hand width, but there's just a little bit of headroom, and then the majority of me and the subject is in the frame. All right, so I adjust the Y coordinates so that it doesn't look like I'm like sinking. Then I'm going to change the tracking type. If you're following somebody who's walking around, play with the difference between face and body. I find it kind of 6 to 1, half a dozen the other, whether or not body tracking is as efficient as face tracking. If it's a full body shot, play with the two options, but you'll need to put a subject on stage before production. Don't do this on a live camera. When you go to this shot, at least for me, I want this to be ready to rock and roll and be rolling when I go to that shot, right? So if I transition over to somebody on stage, I want cam control already be tracking that person correctly. I don't want to be changing parameters when I go to that, because all bets are off. I mean, who knows what will happen. So we want to be sure that we want to change that accordingly. Now, the word gamma here, all right, below the track type, gamma, is actually tracking speed, okay? So let's translate that a little bit. This is tracking speed. I don't like at 0.6. That's good if you have somebody walking across the stage at walking speed, average walking speed. 6 is sufficient. However, if they saunter or if they're presenting, they're going to take slower steps. And at 0.6, that will do this number, okay? It'll start being like really jerky on stage. I like it at 4, 3, or 2, especially if you're doing house of worship stuff where a pastor is moving methodically across the stage. He's not walking with purpose generally. He's walking to engage his audience. Same thing with lecture halls, same thing with classrooms. I like it at 0.2 or 0.3. 0.3 seems to work pretty well. So I'm going to set this here at 0.3. And then I'm going to hit update. And that's going to update the parameters to now move at those speeds. This speed is a lot smoother. It starts gradually and ends gradually, and I feel like it's a lot more efficient in terms of making it not painful to watch. Okay, the next thing that we want to talk about then is vertical tracking. Vertical tracking, if you have it on, will track somebody who goes up. Okay? So if we go up or down in the frame, vertical tracking will follow them up and down. Now, if the camera is at floor height and you're watching a stage and the client is walking back and forth, you don't want the vertical stuff to really change. It's another element, okay? It's another dimension in the shot. So you want to lock that off and turn vertical tracking off. And we would do this. You could even turn tracking off, turn it back on, make sure vertical tracking is off, okay? But if you have your camera mounted on a ceiling that's looking down on a stage, and potentially the people on stage will move left and right, and the camera is at like a 45-degree angle. When the client walks across the stage, the vertical alignment will change, okay? Which is why vertical tracking is on. So as the client walks from stage left to stage right, and the camera is up at 45 degrees, it will also need to move kind of slightly up to follow, to make sure that the body stays in the same section of the frame. So you need to turn vertical tracking on because you want that to correct. Now, when you turn that on, you hit update, it will follow you then up and down, all right? It'll keep that customer or that client in that shot. Where it gets kind of tricky is when we start accounting for error correction. And this is something that I'm working with the engineers on. It's not perfectly refined yet. But when you make minimum error corrections, what that means is your client can get to a certain spot on the screen before the camera starts to follow, okay? So in this instance, horizontal, left and right, I want that to be, let's say, 3, which means that the client will need to get, let's line up my hands here, the client will need to get somewhere in this realm, in the shot before it starts to move. Right now, the camera moves right away because we're out of the zone. But when we hit update, now it shouldn't start moving until I get to like a 1/3 of the side of the screen. Okay, so I got to pass those thresholds, but I can move around in here and it doesn't follow me. Okay, so there's error correction. So if you want it to only move when the guy walks off the screen, you'd crank up this horizontal error correction all the way. But I like it at like 0.3, 0.4, because it means that they have to get to about 2/3 of the frame away, somewhere in this realm, past my hands, in order for the camera to start following. Okay? But if I move around inside here, camera shouldn't follow me, and it doesn't. Okay? Same thing with vertical correction, is that it would need to pass a threshold in order for the camera to move vertically. Now, this is different than horizontal correction, especially depending on how the cameras are mounted. If they're mounted on the floor, I don't really recommend vertical correction because you're not going to have much vertical ups and downs. But if it's mounted at a 45-degree angle on a ceiling upside down, you are going to need vertical correction. I would make it less. Okay, yes, it would be great to have a box on the minimum error. Okay, that's a good suggestion. I would say that this minimum vertical error correction probably needs to be 0.2. So less, you want the minimum error for vertical to adjust earlier than the horizontal one. Because the horizontal stuff here on the frame is a lot further, okay, 1920, than it is 1080. Okay, so there's a lot fewer frames here. So if I move up and I put the error correction at 0.3, it's going to need me to get to 2/3 of the frame, which is a lot less here than 2/3 of the frame here. So I'm going to set the vertical minimum correction less so that when I get to about here on the frame, it will start moving vertically. So you have to finesse it a bit, and it really matters on what are you doing with these cameras. Is this a classroom? Is it a house of worship? Is this a government installation? Like, what are you doing? Are you going to be manning this as a production person, or is somebody going to be who can make changes on the fly? Like, for example, I've noticed that so the stage that I've used this on in a practical sense, usually there's a worship band behind the pastor that stands in front. Vertical tracking changes when you have people that are 10 feet behind, and that's where they're going to be. So it matters. The person running cam control probably needs to know that that's a real thing, and that, there's going to need to be some correction. And so it really is based on the install. There isn't like a BirdDog says to use 0.3. That's not what we're doing here. It's more about understanding at a deeper level what they do, and then allowing the program to function for your specific use. So Also, be sure that you hit update because that will then actuate the things that you've selected, with the exception of tracking type. I believe that happens right away, and the coordinates. Now, here's the catch that I talked about numerous times that I really feel like you need to pay attention to. If you change the horizontal or vertical minimum error correction, and then you try and manipulate the XY coordinates, those will not change in real time until the error correction thresholds have been exceeded. Meaning, if I change the vertical coordinates now, so where my face would be in the middle of the shot, notice how it didn't change yet. I have to exceed those thresholds before the error correction will happen. Okay? So now I've moved in those zones, and now my head is in the middle of the frame. But that didn't happen until I passed the error correction. So, set up your shot first. Turn off vertical and horizontal minimum error. Hit update. And now it moves right away. Okay? Moves right away. Now we change the vertical coordinates so that when we hit update, okay, 120, right? That's what I like. I'm going to hit update. Okay? The camera moves when I click update because there is no threshold for error correction. All right, so I like 120. Let's see how that kind of behaves here. Maybe a little bit more just to get this to align correctly. So maybe 110, 114. Sure, why not? All right, I'm where my eyes need to be in this shot. Now we turn on vertical error correction. Okay, 02. And the horizontal correction, 03. We hit update on that. And now, when I move, it moves when I pass those thresholds. Okay? If you try, though, and fix the shot with the XY coordinates after the error correction is enabled, it won't adjust itself until you pass those error correction thresholds. So you need to turn off the error correction, set up your shot, then set the error correction to what you need. So from top down, okay? So set up your shot first, then set up your error correction, and then you'll be good to go. Then your shot will stay where you expect it to stay. If you, though, go to XY coordinates and you start adjusting this stuff, nothing will happen until you exceed those thresholds. All right? Alrighty. Trigger reset. Boom. So this is all back to square one, I guess. Maybe not. Oh, no, it's not. So 320 is the center. 110 is what we're going to set there. Maybe a little more. Let's see if we can get her to settle down here. Maybe a little more. Come on. Oh, because my error correction is on. Duh, John. All right, so now when we hit there, notice I turned off error correction, and when I hit apply, it adjusted it to the XY coordinates. So that's the big catch with cam control that I've had to figure out on my own, and I'm happy to share it with you. Set your shot first and then allow it to follow. Verify that it's working. It's keeping the subject exactly where you want them to, and then set your error correction. All right, and then you're good to go. Okay, folks, that is my cam control rambles. Here is BirdDog Dexter hanging out with us today, and he's still sleeping, and it's past noon, right? Yeah, so 12:18. You're welcome. A little extra today because we're excited about BirdDog Dyno. If you missed it, it will be shown again on my YouTube page at birddogjohn.tv. Be sure you hit subscribe, but the video will be saved there. You can watch today's broadcast. We start with CJ's video that he produced with our guys over in Australia. It's a great overview. It gives you generally everything you need to get started today with BirdDog Dyno. If you want a little bit more explanation and the things that I love about it as a support guy, as a guy that helps people install their bird dogs, keep watching because we go into a deeper dive about 10 minutes after that video is shown. And yeah, and then we do a brief little cam control tutorial as well because MTash asked so nicely. So I'm happy to provide that as well. So, hey, this is so helpful. Thank you. You are very welcome. I'm glad that you have found it helpful. Let me know. Hey, helpful deep dive ramblings from John. Yes, ramblings is probably accurate. Hey, this cam control would be great for esports face cam for players when you can monitor players. Hey, so cam control is free. It needs a Windows 10 machine, and it works pretty well. You should check it out, download it, play with it, see if your BirdDog cameras... Make sure your BirdDog cameras are running LTS, the latest updates, but then download the latest cam control off our website, which is birddog.tv/downloads, and tear it up. Yeah, you can grab it, try it out. I would love to see esports, what you guys are doing down there with esports, especially if you're running cam control. That would be pretty awesome. Now, the other thing that I should mention about cam control is, I gave you a demonstration of one camera, but to be honest with you, you can run 4 at a time. So we can throw all these on there, and it won't track Dexter, but if these were all watching me, we could customize them all to run all 4 cameras at once. Depends on the computer a little bit, the processing power, but there you go. Yeah, there's definitely an option there to run multiple cameras out of the same software. So yeah, it's good stuff. Check it out if you haven't already, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if you got any of that. Hey, I want to say thank you for the suggestions of helping fixing the screen flickering. I'll give that a try. Come back to you on Thursday. Hey, anytime, of course. That was actually mostly Phil. But yeah, that's what this is all about, man. And if I don't have an answer for you, somebody in the chat might. I usually have sales guys that are hanging around, and I also have a bunch of support guys that hang out as well. On Thursday, we will make up for the lack of snacks on stream, because that was today's deal. So join us again on Thursday to watch me sweat it out while eating more spicy Korean noodles and answering all your NDI questions. So we're going to turn it over to Master Chief here.
5 minutes remaining.
And we'll do the 5-minute countdown for the end of the show. We're going to end right around 12:26 today. So if you have any more questions, yes, thank you, Phil. As always, man, it's always great to have him on the stream. Yeah, give me a shout if you got NDI questions. That's what we're here for. If you missed the show and you're watching in recap, help at birddog.tv. We'll open a ticket for you. I've got a whole fleet of guys that work on the other side of this wall who can help answer those questions, as well as a couple of guys around the world. So we try and get back to you in real time. We'll try our best to get you relative answers. If it's something that we've got a deep dive on with engineering, we will work with them to try and get that, get some answers for you, and give you some realistic expectations as well. So inventing stuff is not easy, and I'm excited to be on a team that invents some pretty cool stuff, to be honest with you. But there are challenges all the time, and so we will try and shoot straight with you on all that and let you know what's happening. Also, if you don't know, I don't know how you could miss it at this point, we'll be at NAB this year in Las Vegas. So if you're going to come out to NAB, yeah, come hit up our booth. We will be in the Central Hall, all right? And, yeah, we would love to shake your hands, see what's going on. We are going to be at booth Central Hall, so C5021. So come jump on our booth and see all the cool stuff that we're going to have there. The current fleet will be there, and some other stuff that we're going to bring too. So you're not going to want to miss that. You're going to want hands-on there at NAB. If you can't make the NAB, stay tuned to our social media platforms. Subscribe to this YouTube channel, which is birddogjohn.tv, or just go to YouTube and look for BirdDog John. It's a picture of Dexter. This is my user interface. And, yeah, I will try and put up some stuff while I'm there as much as I can to keep you guys involved in what it is that we're doing there. So join us at NAB if you can in Central Hall. That's at booth 5021. If you'd like a free guest pass to NAB, use the guest pass code on the NAB website, LV for Las Vegas, LV54287. And you can acquire a free guest pass there when you register. And come and see us. Come say hi. We would love to shake your hand, say hello. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff at that booth. A lot of demos, presentations, all sorts of cool stuff. So, and you might even see me there. So, fingers crossed, I will. I mean, I have to be there because all the gear is here and I'm shipping it out there. There's so much to do, guys. But anyways, I'm trying to get swole. Let me jump over to the chat. What is going on here with this? Okay, here we go. Let me follow up on the chat. Yoink. Hey, I want to say thank you for all the suggestions trying to fix the screen flickering. Give that a try. Thank you to Phil. Hey, we were around, but I had to do a little workout. That probably means more boxes showed up is what that means. Alrighty, a couple more minutes to go. I really appreciate it, guys. We are on Twitch. They have restored my account, so feel free to join us over there. But seriously, subscribe to me over on YouTube. That's my BirdDog. That's my work account. I don't get anything for being over there. But if you subscribe, then you'll get all the updates and stuff that we do. Especially, there's a playlist called Snacks on Stream, and that's like our goofing off portion where I eat spicy or terrible food, and I give you an honest review about it. So there are some recaps on there. And on Thursday, I'll promise Beep Chirp, I'll do one. I think it's corn this time, the corn-flavored Korean spicy. So let's tear it up. Let's do it. I'm looking forward to that. I'm actually enjoying this. So, hey, are we over 100 chats? Not yet, but let me see. I can give you the analytics on it. We're getting there. Today's chat brought to you by these sauces that Beep Chirp sent over. Here, I'll throw these up here while we're finishing up. These are those spicy Korean sauces that go, that come in each of those packages. This cheese one is quite good. It's spicy, but it's quite tasty. So I might keep that one. This one-time spicy is if you're going to do a spicy challenge, start there. And if you can tolerate that, then you can upgrade to the 2-time spicy. The 2-time spicy is purely to say you did it. It's not really to enjoy it. And anybody who says that they enjoyed it, you should question their integrity, because that's crazy talk right there. So, no, I'm kidding. Apparently, Beep Chirp really likes it, and there's another guy that we know that really likes it, so we might donate it to him. Eamon apparently likes really spicy food, so that's cool. Hey, please refresh this page for real-time stats. Okay, let's do that. Chat messages. We have had... That can't be right. 24 chat messages? So, yeah, no, we're way off today in terms of chat, I guess. I don't know. But all good. We don't have to hit that benchmark every week. The red one is 100,000 Scovilles. Yes, it is. And... yeah, it was painful to eat. I mean, I'll admit it. I'm not ashamed of that. It was painful. So, yeah, it was a doozy, to say the least. All right. Let's wrap things up. We're past that 5-minute mark, so we're going to finish it up here. But guys, I really appreciate you joining me today. It has been exciting news that BirdDog Dyno is now a real thing. Download it on our website for free. Put it on your computer. Run some analysis information. If you've got questions, bring them on Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time here in the U.S., and I'll be back on stream to help you answer those questions and to give you some real-time feedback. If it just can't wait, hit us up at help@birddog.tv, or if it's a pre-sales question, you can reach out to the team over there at hello@birddog.tv, and they'd be happy to interact with you as well. So feel free to come on back on Thursday, ask your questions, bring your findings, let me know what you find out, and we'd be happy to interact with you there. In the meantime, subscribe to that YouTube channel so that you can be sure you see all the videos that we come out with, at least for this Twitch stream, and we'll go with it. Yeah, no, that's just for Twitch, I believe. Oh, okay. I'm looking at the restream stuff, so it should tally up all the chats that we've had in restream. But anyways, we'll go with it. Yeah, so in the meantime, come back on Thursday. If you just can't wait, shoot us an email. We'd be happy to talk to you on there. In the meantime, take care of yourselves. It's been real cool to hang out with you and get to show you Dyno. And now we're just going to finish out with a quick little video. We're going to call it a day, and we'll see you in a couple of days closer to the end of the week. Take care of yourselves. Thank you so much for being on the show, and we'll check in with you soon. Bye, guys.
Resistance is futile.